Hi, and welcome to another episode of Ulvespill Interviews. Today we have one person who has a lot of experience when it comes to PR marketing, and that's Peter Jakobsen from PR Nordic. And you can say hello.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you.
And the big question: who is Peter Jakobsen?
So, a short introduction about me is that I've been lucky to be around 20 years in the industry, a little bit more. Been working with sales, marketing, and then actually ended up with PR, which I find amazing, interest and there are so many aspects of it. So that's why I still focus on it, and I think I will keep my focus on the PR part. But also been working with developer personalities, been working with AAA games, with indie teams and indie developers. Been touching more than thousands of games. Working with esport, TV series, film, events, shows, all kind of stuff, digital entertainment. Yeah.
And the list isn't exactly small from different companies I work with. Like say, if you look at the gaming experience, that's a pretty huge list.
It's a very big list, and some of them, people will notice and know them, and some will be unknown because they're not existing in over 20 years in the industry that moves so fast. You will really see things that goes quickly, and so what was big a couple of years ago can be in that position that it doesn't exist anymore. So it goes quickly, but there are a lot of companies there that I've been touching through the time, and actually there are more than that, but this is to list it roughly with the game experience.
Yeah. And you not only work with, like you said, you not only with video games, you also work with movies and TV series. And you have a small list there
Yes.
as well.
Yeah, it's that have been a lot, from 20th Century Fox to yeah, Marvel, and you see a list there as well. So there have been a lot. I think that one year we touched or worked with like 53 TV series in a one year. So that was barely a one TV series per week. So that's a lot, and it's still something, what you learn from the gaming genre is something you can take into to series and film, and opposite also something you learn from another genre is something you can take into to the gaming part. So it's quite interesting.
With all of this broad experience, but let's talk about just you, because what are your favorite video game genres after tested everything?
I think actually it's a little bit time ago, but I think what I do play now mostly, and actually if I really have good time, that would be strategy games. Strategy games where you can build up something, you can micromanagement, your small armies. If I have that and a good portion of coffee, I forget time and place. So, but also actually I'm also a big fan of indie games that are very simple, where it doesn't have to be major graphic or big stunning teams behind it, but where it can be games that are quite simple and has something very unique. And I find that's also very appealing. Something that is easy to pick up and play as well.
What will you say was your first video game experience?
The first one was actually so old that it was called Philips Video Pack, and that's like way beyond. It was an old system that you plugged into your television, and I even think that it was. I think it just came after this ping pong game, so it's really old. But when I saw it, it was amazing. That was a huge dream to get a machine like that, and I think when I got it and I started to buy the games, then the entire system died out. And then from that, it moved over to Commodore 64, to Amiga, and and that way.
What is the like say a video game or something that happened during video games that really stuck inside your brain, that you remember, like a childhood memory or something like that?
That there was a lot, you know. It's I remember actually, funny enough, that I did play so many games actually. So it was not just one, but I played so many games that my school teacher was afraid that if I continued playing games in that, you know, amount, she was saying that I might end up dreaming games, you know, where you know, my dreams would be in game environments. But I was afraid to tell her that at that point I had already been doing it for a couple of months. So so it was everything, you know. I had to try all kind of games and find out, you know, what was sticked out. But there have always been, you know, different things that have you know, surprised me a lot. For example, first time I saw Max Payne, I was lucky to work with the first Max Payne, and when I saw the level of details, you know, when you were shooting and the bullet time and the slow motion and all that, you know, that was quite stunning. First time I played Burnout, and also saw that the details of Stalker, Shadow of Chernobyl, and that have been a lot. But I also liked, you know, that in the old games, you know, from a Amiga or Commodore 64, that you could be more people sitting, you know, and playing on the same screen, and you actually shared, you know, a game in a certain way. So it was I liked that. But in old games, you had a lot of cool games that have had, you know, something like the old Bruce Lee, or there was something called Oil Imperium or Ports of Call. That's really old games, I know. But also the Command and Conquer was cool. Something called Sudden Strike, and the entire way up. The Grand Theft Auto games, I've been lucky to work with those as well, and that they have also been extremely unique. And I can continue and continue with many games. But yeah, there have been more than 1,000 games I've been working with, and I more or less tried to play all of them, and as plus everything else. So there have been a lot.
What will you say is your top three video games?
Oh, that one is really difficult. I do right now at this moment. I play a lot of Command and Conquer actually on my mobile phone.
Yeah, the Command and Conquer
Um,
Rivals.
yeah,
Yeah,
but it's mostly. I just came up to level 60. That is the maximum level. So yeah, it's. I hope
you
that
have
there
to
will be a
one on one on me on that one.
yeah. So I hope that there will be a add-on. So there will be more levels. Um, you know, I think that Limbo was very amazing because it had this simplicity, and it came out in a time where a lot of games, you know, had this about, you know, showing off, you know, a lot, you know, colors and engines and everything, and then suddenly you have this game coming out that is sticking out in a completely different way. Um, yeah, it's very difficult, you know. It's I must say probably strategy games, you know. Command and Conquer have been quite amazing. The older Ages of Empires was also amazing. Yeah, and yeah.
Yeah, let's talk a little about your previous experience, because before you founded PR Nordic in 2009, is that correct?
Yeah, and yeah, and then it moved on until like a 1.5 year ago, where we merged it into something different, and but it's still PR Nordic, and with a focus on the Nordic region. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, what is your experience, previous experiences that yeah have followed you up to the experience you uses during the PR Nordic right now?
Yeah.
Like you have worked with yeah, like I said, THQ, Take Two, Rockstar, and so forth.
Yeah, that have been a lot, and there have been a lot of companies that doesn't exist anymore. I had the pleasure to work with a company called, for example, Acclaim, and at that time they were actually the biggest video game company in the world. And for many today do not know what Acclaim was, but they had rights for a lot of games, and um, and and unfortunately that stopped. They actually had Burnout before. I also had the pleasure to work with something called Virgin Interactive that actually did have the rights for Command and Conquer before they sold it to EA. Um, that there have been a lot. Nova Logic that did, you know, a lot of fighting simulation game. Um, but also, you know, I had the pleasure to work for a distribution company in old days called K Media, where there were was possible to touch many different brains. Been working with Take Two, and at that time you had something called Gathering of Developers. You had the Rockstar part, and then also, and then 2K came in as a new brand, and it was interesting to work with all those titles, and there were so great games there. And then went to THQ, um, and I had some good years there as well. And then from that actually started up. But there's so many different game studios and different publishers I've been lucky to work with.
Do you think you was nervous on the first day when you started PR?
I was not, but actually I thought that it would be quite easy, and then I found out, just not been speaking English for some time, so I thought that it would be easy, and then I found out how bad I was to English at that time, and but you came into a world of you have to find out which media is placed where, and who is working there, and what kind of style, you try to find out what the different media is like, so you approach the different medias correctly, and that was luck, to find out also, to find out all the good angles about gaming, and working with games for 20 years, you also see a quite difference, how I remember in old days, you could drive to a certain media and you could have codes which was actually like a DVD or CD-ROM you had, where it was a PlayStation game, and it could be played on some special machines, so people could, or media could preview the games, before they actually came out, and they could film from it and play and test it. Today you just send a key, so it's way easier. So things changed, over the years, which yeah.
Yeah, how many clients would you say that you have worked with in total, if you can remember that?
Oh, in the PR Nordic regie, or in
Entire your all 20 years of
oh,
experience.
that must have been hundreds of different, within entertainment and gadgets and gaming and yeah. So that have been a lot, and sometimes actually you find out that some of the people who work with one company suddenly respawn in another company, and then you continue the great co-op.
Any that stood out in for you personally?
Sorry,
Any of the clients I worked with that really stood out for you personally?
which one that
Really stood out that you really loved working with?
of clients?
Yeah.
Well, there have been many clients. I think there have been really good learnings in structure and how to do things, and and I think a lot have been key learnings, from if you work, for a really big publisher, you see, there's a certain structure, and you learn, how things are built up in that way. When you work with a startup, an indie company, you also see, how much effect you can have on the good things you can contribute with. And also, also know that if you do any fuck ups, that can also, harm a smaller publisher quite a lot.
Mm.
So it's I think there's overall, a lot of nice key learnings, from by working with Tech Two, and many of the events, for launching games was amazing. But I must say that some of the most, standout events I've ever seen and tried have been, many of those we worked with via THQ. Um, but also, by not, having different clients to work with, but it have also been quite an honor to work with people in the industry that made the games that I played when I was a child, and then today I've been lucky to, in one another way, work together with them, or do PR for them, or their games. And to mention a few, but it had been a highly honored to work with one Spectre for Epic Mickey, and for John Hare on the the latest social soccer game, a sensible soccer game, and for Charles Cecil with one of the releases of the Broken Sword. So that have been really things that have stand out. I think that that's really cool to work with people that actually made it your games when you were a child.
Yeah. You mentioned a lot of like press events and cons and so forth. Let's just take a look at this collage picture here on from your previous experiences.
That's a lot there. We have been lucky to work with events for you can see some Game of Thrones and for Sons of Anarchy there, and but also we were lucky to work for the European finals for Riot Games for League of Legends in Royal Arena in Copenhagen. Um, and we have been that there have been so many different events. There's one there, on the left side from Chernobyl, where I was very lucky to work for a game called Stalker: Shadow of Chernobyl, and that event was really sticking out. But then,
yeah, we have a few pictures from that Soccer Chernobyl as well. If you just look here.
yeah, it's I must say that to begin with, the first time I saw the game was way back in the start of 2000, and where I saw the game for the first time at the E3, and it was a quite young team that came and presented it, and it was on the booth of THQ, and it was absolutely stunning. I remember that there were big highlights on the expo. There were Half-Life 2 and then this game came and it was completely unknown, and when people saw it they were completely stunned. The details, when you were shooting and he hitting the walls and the lightning and everything, it was absolutely out of the blue. People have never seen anything like that before. And then to build up the entire campaign, the game really had a very long production time, and and actually inviting medias there, and going to the actual place in Chernobyl was very interesting, but also very scary. Normally you have like radioactive, when you measure it, you have a number of 1, but when we came there and turned on those machines, it went on barely 700, and everything just looked, and felt very, like unreal. You were not able to touch anything due to the radioactive stuff as well. And it was a closed area. We came in there, but it was not allowed for any public. I'm not sure how we got in there, but and but it was very interesting. We joked actually about the mutants and all what we saw there, but then there were actually something in around this silo that crashed. There were actually like we saw something down there in this water that was like, it could have been like a fish on I don't know how many meters, but something was there, and it looked quite scary. But why doing all that? Is simply to having journalists to come and actually have a feel of the atmosphere, how it is there, and then for the next day to let them try the game and actually see how realistic it is, and actually get a feeling of they are there, and so they can also see that the buildings and all the environment in the game is as realistic as possible. But the
Let's
Stalker one really did stick out, yeah.
yeah, let's look a bit at the collage picture again, because there is a lot of famous people in there.
Yeah, they have been for Game of Thrones. We have been lucky for doing supporting for PR for that as well. So there have been events where um, we have invited medias to come and meet actors and for interviews and in a more in a casual atmosphere.
I know particularly one person from our staff. He is definitely gonna ask about the Sons of Anarchy logo in there. What can I say about that?
There was I must say that it was a standout campaign, because I knew that at that time the Game of Thrones were actually a little bit more popular here, but we tried to figure out how could we do a very nice kind of campaign. So we actually got like a fan club on different radio stations to talk about it. We did like national competitions where people could win tattoos after their own wish. I think the winner actually got a like exactly the same as in the TV show or TV series. And we tried to do a lot of things. And I remember when the figures came out after we've been doing the pushes, is you could measure, TV series in different, how the sales was in DVD and how the streaming was and everything. And I think it went number one in 11 out of 12 ways you could measure it in those weeks. So it really gave, a lot of visibility.
Let's go a little bit back to the video games again, and
Yeah.
the PR work. Because what will you say is a typical work day for you?
As completely typical is to go through everything we have of campaigns. With there's a lot, and it can be different. It can both be gaming and also entertainment. It can be gadgets. It can be keyboards or earphones related to something that can be e-sport as well. Some of the parts I really like about all this is actually the planning part of it, and actually also spot the opportunities, because normally when you have a game, it's not always that it's actually the game, for example, that can be the super interesting part. Because if you are a brand new team and come out with a brand new game, nobody know the game and nobody know the sender of the game, actually the team. So that's where you have to actually see how can you do some good storytelling.
Yeah, do you get
How
an
can
example
Yeah.
like the Landed Bandits?
Exactly. It was actually years back when I started up on my own. I had the highest pleasure actually to work with a Nordic indie team called the Bearded Ladies, and the first game they came out with under that brand, I think, was actually Landed Bandit, and that it was amazing, to work with them, because my understanding was that the entire world was in a recession, and everything was going down and people got fired, and here we actually had a team that went together and actually in a very short time actually managed to build a game that as I understood would take a much longer time to build. And and uh, and, and I actually learned that, because coming from AAA games, I was used to that. When I came with a game, people knew about it, so I could see that this would have to, be dealt with in a different way, because you come out with a game that not many know about, and from a team that not many actually again know about. So so we try to make a story about them as a team, and where they came from, and that they, due to a recession, also dared to to settle in a new way, and start do something you have dreamed about, and actually make a video game. So I felt that 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 team with the talents actually got a lot of nice coverage, simply due to them as people, and not so much about the game. And so that, I think that's really cool, that you can build a story sometimes not only about the game, but also about the team. And that's what I like actually with indie gaming today, that you have a lot of things to place focus on. So it's not only about an engine or how much you want to earn, but it can be your background. And many people also see game developers as heroes today, but not many actually know that you have those people around on the streets as well. So they are among us, and why not highlight that you actually have really creative people around us, and that actually deliver a lot of joy and happiness and action, to the audience and us.
Absolutely. And there's also one more company that you're working with right now, but you gotta showcase a little trailer before that.
Oh yeah, we are not working with it now. We had a pleasure to work with it for many years, but I
Mm.
will definitely highlight some nice stuff about it. Yes.
Yeah, we can just watch the trailer first. I could talk about it afterwards.
armed for deadly encounters. She is tactical and timely. This is Protea, the protector, the enforcer. Grenade Fan offers offensive and defensive capability. Activate to throw a shrapnel vortex, damaging and staggering nearby enemies. Hold to emit shield satellites that protect her, her allies, and companions, restoring a large amount of shields while increasing their regeneration rate. Blaze Artillery places a temporary rapid-fire turret that blasts plasma charges at any enemy it faces. Each successful hit increases its overall damage, piercing through to hit multiple foes with a single blast. Dispensary deploys a cycling supply cache that can generate health, ammo, and energy pickups every few seconds. Always have an escape plan, Tenno. Temporal Anchor records Protea's state upon activation. Any damage dealt is recorded and a percentage is emitted outward in a temporal implosion upon deactivation, rewinding Protea back to the activation point, restoring all ammo, energy, shields, and health to the anchored state. If downed while active, Protea will uncontrollably rewind, and any stored damage benefits will not be realized. Protea is the method to the madness. When you face her, it's already too late.
That was Warframe.
Yeah, it was a big pleasure to work with that game for many years. It was actually an assignment we got for a few months, and then it became for 4 or 5 years or something like that. And what I like with that, and why I highlighted it also, is that it also shows how the industry have been changing over the years. Because in old days, when you reviewed a game, you had that one option, for a review, and then that was it. Even if you had a game that you should launch that was not completely finished, you launched it, and then you had a lot of bugs, and there was a lot of things missing in a game, and then it didn't go well. But today, you can, and Warframe, first of all, I remember that it got quite quickly, actually came out as when you launched PlayStation 4, it was like one of the most standout games. It became the most downloaded game on the PlayStation Store, and actually the second most downloaded app after Netflix. And they were really good, to keep updating and actually listen to what the audience have been saying. And I think that shows how cool the game was, but also how it is today, because you can actually, if you as a media, or you read about a game that some media like or do not like, then it gives a nice opportunity when you have an online game like Warframe, that you as a developer team can actually go in and change, and you can update, and you can listen to the audience, and if they need or would like something like that, you can actually make it in the next update. So that shows that in old days, where you had one chance to make present your game and get a review. Today you can actually have a game to be evaluated many times, because the game, what you played 1 year ago, might have changed so much today due to the all the updates and everything. So you keep games alive in a different way, and it's definitely something that shows a difference. So a thing is that even that a game might have been getting a lower score one time, the year after can be completely changed and actually go on and probably from the same media get a higher score. Or I think that shows some of the difference from 20 years back to until today. You can also, I've heard that you can even launch a game today that is more or less not finished, and then first time you start it up, it just download a big package, and then you get the latest updates, and then the game is good to go.
Yeah, that's always difficult as a reviewer, because you have one product at launch, and maybe a few months afterwards or years afterwards, the game can be totally different. And
totally,
and that's always difficult. Should we do a completely new review of the game, or just update the old review and so forth? That's a difficult question for a reviewer. or a writer?
I think definitely that if a game is in process, it's like working with a game that is in an open beta. Things can change and change and change, and that's something you see today that you didn't see in old days. So that's some of the changes that's it's organic, it changing constantly. So yeah, I definitely think that many games is worth review again and again, when new stuff are coming in.
Let's move a little bit more forward. More on the personal level again. Do you have any funny scenarios from press events or E3, Gamescom, or something like that?
Yeah, both. I would say, for press events, I will say that there have been a lot, and the thing about building a nice press event is to make people feel that they're in an atmosphere that is very similar to the game. So Stalker was of course one of them. I was a part of one for Company of Heroes one time, where we were flying some journalists to France and tried to give them a little feeling of the D-Day. And had opportunity to actually speak with people who have been actually in a part of the D-Day, and actually also actors who have been playing in old war movies. And there was a lot, we have a big setup for Saints Row, where we built up an entire event in a very old building that was barely nearly to be completely torn down. But it was the each floor in this building was like built up in so it matched each level of the game. So I think that's really nice. For some racing games, we have tried to make like the real feeling of driving, in nighttime and have that atmosphere. So I think it's not the particular event, but it's how you build it up and how you can actually see that people are getting the feeling that they're really there, and which is also with Stalker, why you take actually people there to see and try how it is, and then they see the video game, and then they see, wow, this video game is so much like the real thing. It was a highly pleasure to work with the finals for Riot Games, also for League of Legends. That was some really interesting days, and see everything from behind the scene, and see how this massively show goes. So I think that have really been sticking out, but there have been many events, and I'm pretty sure that by thinking about it, more will just pop up one by one. For E3 also, it's a big show. Many things are happening, and I remember that we had from Max Payne 1 to Max Payne 2, when we presented Max Payne 2, or Max Payne 2 was presented at E3, or there were like some interviews. We actually had the actor of Max Payne number 1 to actually sit there and actually do the interviews, and so people saw this figure in shadow. They were talking with a certain person, and couldn't actually see who it was. And then suddenly, actually, when the interview was over, the guy, he leaned forward and actually to shake hands, and then people could see that they were actually talking with the real Max Payne. And I think that was quite surprising, and really cool as well. But there have been so much. I think the people who have been doing events and within the video game industry, it have been really outstanding, and I can also guess quite big budgets as well, compared to what I've heard from other industries. But that was that time. You don't see that so much anymore, unfortunately.
Before we head on to my last question, if someone in the chat have a question for either Peter or me, just head on and ask in the chat, and I will try to answer best as you can. And let's have a minute to just enjoy your background in there.
Oh yeah. You want a story about that?
Of course.
It's actually two posters that I went on a press trip one time to Vancouver, and I was traveling with journalists, and while they were going through all the comic books, I was looking for just went through a bunch of random posters, and I found those two. And so it is actually original posters, and it took me 4 years to find a company that could actually scan them and digitalize them and actually spray them out on canvas, so they came back to the original. So it was the only two I could find. So it's and it's two mates from DC Universe.
I actually have two canvas that has printed on as well, but that's some like yay big with Deadpool and Assassin's Creed. That's mine actually. I don't...
Those were original, very very small actually compared to
yeah, you have the huge ones, just the tiny ones.
Yeah, so it always reminds me of a press trip to Vancouver.
Yeah, let's head on for the last question, because we have to start to end the interview very soon. But what is your guilty pleasure to relax after a heavy day at work?
What can make me totally relax is to play with my daughter. I have a daughter that is 10 years old now, and otherwise chill, hang out with friends, or do something that is not interactive at all.
Yeah, but that's just a typical day. What is a guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure to chill out in front of television with something that is like where you don't have to think, where you can completely cut off. So as I've been working with many TV series as well, I often choose a channel for very very old people, where it's something that is even nothing for me, but I can just completely turn off and relax.
Like, yeah, just have to just get some chips and dips and just watch some terrible documentary, and you just can fall asleep in the chair.
It's because if I see something too good, I get too excited, and if I'm like, see something different, we have might worked with it or are working with it or something like that, and it's so then I think about that, and actually also, I right now would like to go through, all the amazing indie games on Xbox Live. I think there's a nice catalog there right now of a lot of great games. So that's quite good as well.
To answer your question, Spice Doritos, you probably got here in the broadcast later on, but PR Nordic handles the PR of marketing on different video games and movies and TV series. You can watch the recap of the entire interview on our YouTube channel afterwards. Do you want to add something before we end the interview, Peter?
No, I'll just say, thank you a lot for the opportunity, and I hope that it has been very interesting, and also, we will always be happy to answer any questions, and yeah, I'm happy to support, on a day, where a lot of people in the Nordic region is still working from home, and so yeah.
Thank you for attending our small video game site for interview.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
the opportunity.
And that was Peter from PR Nordic. And like I said to Spicy Doritos on the chat here, the recap of this entire interview can be watched on our YouTube channel. You can find the link down below, or you can just search off Ulvespill or go to our website, where we also will upload the interview as a web article. Thank you very much for coming to our stream, and thank you.